live now.
All right.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing good. Now today I've got a very special guest. I'm joined by a big Arsenal fan, Amir, and we'll chat a bit about the Lyon game yesterday, a bit about transfer news. And if you guys do have any questions you want us to answer as well, we'll be more than happy to do that. But first, Amir, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well,
Good, I'm glad you're good, and I do appreciate you coming on because off air was saying there's a bit of a time difference, you're quite up early, so I do appreciate you coming on. And I thought I could start off a bit by talking about the game yesterday, where obviously for me, Arsenal, I've been really enjoying watching us in pre-season. It's been just nice to have Arsenal back again. But I just wanted to first of all get your thoughts on the game and what you thought of it.
So I think we played well. Gabriel Martinelli kind of disappointed me. He's one of my favorite players, but he kind of disappointed me. I just think he needs to work on his final product in the box, especially on that left-hand side. But other than that, I think it's poised to be a great season this year. Everyone's looking well-rested. Calafiori impressed me in the 27 minutes that he came on. I also think Zinchenko is poised for a bounce-back season. Just seeing him yesterday, I think he's back to the form that made him great at Manchester City. It might be because of the new competition coming, but I wouldn't necessarily say I don't think it's going to get to a point where he's going to be on the transfer block next year. I think he's going to have a bounce back season. But other than that, I think, and this kind of goes on with transfer news, but I think yesterday really showed the need for a game changing striker. I know that's something everyone has kind of said all summer, but I think we need to go out because we barely made any signings. So we need to go out. I wouldn't say barely made any signings, but we really haven't signed anyone this window outside of Calafiori. So we need to go out, spend the influx of cash on a Gyökeres or an Osimhen.
Yeah, definitely.
I know Mikel Merino is reported to be done, basically. So after Merino, we need to, I guess, sell Eddie and then go out and get somebody huge. And I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, I think, with the transfer window so far, don't get me wrong, Calafiori, watching him yesterday, I feel excited about him, but I'm pretty much with you, I kind of maybe expect us to do a little bit more. I mean, as well, with players that we have here, like Nketiah as well, he could have gone, and no, he could have gone for 30 million, and to be honest, I'd have been fine with that. But I think as well, there's players here that wouldn't really start or get on the bench, and they're still sort of part of the team. And you mentioned about Zinchenko, and I wanted to kind of ask you about that because for me, I think last season I would say he didn't have a great season. I mean, we know going forward he's amazing to watch, and I love that about him. But we know also defensively is his weakness. He just struggled a little bit. Do you feel how do you feel about his future Arsenal? Because for me, if he left, I kind of wouldn't mind, but I also think it would be nice for him to have a great season when the season starts.
Yeah, so I'm kind of mixed opinion on his future at Arsenal because I think there's some guys, and this is kind of this is a perspective we have in American sports.
Yeah.
So there's some guys you always keep around because they're good locker room people. And it seems like a lot of the squad likes Zinchenko. They see him as a leader. Obviously, he's won a couple of Premier League titles. So he was good for the leadership aspect of it. But he's I wouldn't say his skills are faltering, but he's obviously not one of the marquee players anymore. So I think if the right offer comes, you can sell him. But he's still somebody I would keep, kind of like a Mohamed El-Neni, where even if he doesn't play for a couple years, I'd still be fine with keeping him on the books.
Yeah, I think he's a good player to have. I mean, he's got a lot of experience as well, and at one point, he was a very important player for us. So I do still see him as an important player to have. Not necessarily that he'll play all the time, because I know with all the players we've got now, it'd be hard for him to kind of fit in. But I suppose if he wants to maybe fight for his place or stay as part of the team, but I think, like you said, if a reasonable offer did come in, I think we should, consider it. But I think, it's going to be exciting next season, because I know some players that have impressed me. I mean, Jesus for me is one that I remember when the season finished, I felt like I'd be open to offers, but now I'm kind of like, I want to see how it goes next season, because for him, he had a lot of injuries last season, and I think that kind of affected him in a lot of different ways. And we didn't really see as much of goals or assists towards kind of the end of the season. But how have you made of like Jesus in the preseason? Because I know preseason versus being in the Premier League, it's obviously different. But do you feel like you'll have a good season coming up?
Yeah, I think he will. I was actually at the game against United a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
and Jesus really impressed me. I know everyone likes to talk about how he did his ACL a couple of years ago
Hmm.
and kind of how that's going to slow him down, but he seems really rested, rejuvenated, um, and it
Yeah.
seems like he's kind of recapturing his great form. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing about preseason, though, I know it's not really a good indicator of like how a season's going to go,
Hmm.
but it can always set a good run of form. And I think by beating United, obviously we lost to Liverpool, but by beating Lyon, beating Leverkusen, and especially at the Emirates, it's going to start a good path and run a form. And Jesus seems like to me he's back to full speed, or he's at least healthier again. I think last year, the first year you come off an ACL, it's always kind of wishy washy. Um, just for example, like one of my favorite baseball players, Ronald Acuna, he tore his ACL the first year back. He wasn't really himself, and then the year after that, he won MVP, or I guess y'all's equivalent is Premier League Player of the Year. But I just think the first year after an ACL, it's always kind of hit or miss. But I think that second year, he's going to be back to full speed. I think we're having technical difficulties.
Hi guys, I'm so sorry. Um, it should be working now. I think my internet just went bad. Um, can you guys let me know if you can hear me? Can you hear me okay? I don't know what happened. I'm so
I can
sorry.
hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Sometimes my internet just goes, but I forgot what we were talking about now. Do you remember what you were saying? Was it about
Yeah, I
Jay?
was saying I don't know where it cut out, but
Yeah.
it. I was talking about how, um, I guess Jesus,
Oh,
you normally the first year after an ACL injury, it's
mm,
kind of hit or miss, and then the second year, um, normally back to full speed. So I think this year Gabriel Jesus will be back
yeah,
to pre World Cup 2022 form.
yeah. I hope so.
I'm
Yeah.
confident. I have a feeling, and I was watching him against United, and I was like, he's back. Like it seemed like vintage Gabriel Jesus.
I really like him when he's like at his best. I think, if we are being honest, he has had it difficult with injuries, and I think last season as well, I think he did struggle a lot with that. So maybe that's sort of why maybe towards the end of the season we didn't see a lot of him. But I'm hoping, the season coming up, we will see more of him. But I do really like him. I'm with you. I think he's obviously had so many injuries, which has sort of set him back a little bit. But I think the season coming up, I'm really excited to see what you can do. And I wanted to ask you about Martinelli because I know you mentioned it before, and from watching him, I know I'll say about the game yesterday. I mean, I really wanted him to score so bad. I mean, you can see he wants to, but it's almost like he's overthinking things, like overpassing things, or he's struggling a little bit at the moment. And I feel like people are starting to maybe have questions now about his future. Would we get rid of him in the future? And I do still believe in him, and I think we should still support him. But I just want to get your thoughts on how you feel about him because I know it's quite difficult because he's so talented. When we've seen him at his best, he's amazing. But I know at the moment, going to the season, he's probably not got a lot of confidence at the moment.
I would I would say I'm mixed opinion on that as well
Mm,
because I think
yeah,
the thing about Martinelli is that he's streaky. I don't want to say he's streaky, but when he's
yeah,
on, he's on. Obviously, we saw last year, he had a very bad run of form the second half of the season, and I just think he's so young where obviously confidence is a big. I don't want to say
mm,
he hasn't played in those big games yet, but mentality is a big part of football. Um, like just how you think about the game is plays a big part, and he
yeah,
doesn't have like I think it's good that him, Bukayo, um, just all these young players are getting this Champions League experience with the club while they're 21, 22, 23, because
yeah,
it better prepares them for runs where we're gonna bring in more experienced players, like a Mikel Merino, even
yeah,
though like he's older, but he still has more experience like at top flight football and playing in Europa and Champions League with Sociedad. Like we're gonna be bringing in these players, and I think by them having a better mentality,
yeah,
that'll better strengthen the squad. But I think Martinelli's biggest issue is just I it's hard to pinpoint it. But I
yeah,
think it's his mentality a little bit, but I also think he just doesn't have a good final product. I don't know.
yeah.
I think
I
that's
think,
something he needs to work on, and it's always been an
yeah.
issue ever since he was 18 and playing in 2019. It's always been an issue.
I think that's what he's struggling at the moment, especially like the end product of, I mean, because to be honest, he has, he doesn't always pass. He might give it a chance and shoot, but it's sort of not really working. And I think as well, football does move on fast. I mean, players come and go, and people end up taking his place if he's not able to, be at that level. It's a hard one because I really do like Martinelli, and I know we've got a great connection with him, and he loves Arsenal, but I think throughout the season, I think he does have to step up a little bit. I think we've got to see a bit more of him, but I suppose we can't judge it but you can't judge it right now, really. I mean, because it's pre-season, and I know he'll want to do better throughout the season. So I'm really hoping that will go well for him. And I wanted to actually ask you about Calafiori because I know he's been like I'm really excited about him. I think he's been a great signing. Now, obviously, he's not really played much. We did see him play yesterday, and honestly, like I really liked him from what I saw. I feel quite excited about him.
Yeah.
But what have you made of him from the performance yesterday, and what do you kind of think he'll bring to the team throughout the season?
So it was actually funny. joke around about Lee Gunner sometimes, and Lee Gunner had a funny quote where he's like, "I've seen more clips of people talking about his aura than his football." But what was I gonna say? I was at the Euros this summer. I saw the
Yeah,
Italy Croatia game, um, and just I think Calafiori. Because I was watching him specifically because I was around the same week where we got linked to him.
yeah,
I honestly think he brings an unprecedented. I know he's not going to be playing center back for us. He's probably going to be playing on one of the flanks.
yeah,
But I was going to say, like, he brings a very great attacking presence and a very great defending presence. And I think that's something that's kind of
yeah,
it's a lost art among wing backs today. Like, there's not many wing backs who are good at both. I truly think he's good at both. I watched a lot of the Bologna games yesterday or last year as well. Um, and I know Serie A is kind of an easier league, but
yeah,
um, he was a really great attacking defender. Like it was
yeah,
unprecedented because he was making runs into the box. He was just doing a lot of the attacking on that team. It was obvious. It was honestly him
yeah.
and Brooksy. Who were kind of running that attack, which was just crazy to see. But
Yeah, he looks like a good player, doesn't he? I'm really excited to see what he'll bring.
but I was gonna say too, like just based off of yesterday, I'm really impressed and I'm happy about this now that we have depth.
Yeah,
And one of the biggest things from Manchester City, people are saying, how can they sign Guardiola for 90 mil, just have him
mm,
sit on the bench and things like that? But all the top teams have depth. Even Real Madrid, when they had BBC starting, they still had Brahim Diaz on the bench. Rodrigo was on the bench for a couple of years. Vinicius was on the bench.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So all of the top teams have depth. And I know Arsenal
yeah,
obviously doesn't have the funds that City and
yeah,
Real Madrid have, but even if you can bring in depth with some mid-tier players, like if Marino comes, you still have Jorginho on the bench. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And you have people
yeah.
to step up.
There's so much like depth we have now, especially defensively, because like there's like the likes of Tomiyasu Kivior as well. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see kind of and Timber as well. Timber, obviously, I think for the season with Timber, like I won't expect too much of him, especially after facing that big injury. And I know the season. I probably expect him to gradually come back and not kind of rush him in. And we've got a lot of options now, which is obviously really great to have in case we do face injuries because you just don't know what can happen in football. But I wanted to read this question out from Mookie Cookie. Who would you start against Wolves, Martinelli or Trossard? Oh, do you know what? That's a tough one.
That's
What
a
would
tough.
you go for?
I would say I start Martinelli because
Mm,
I think it's always good to have continuity.
yeah,
And I'm just anticipating when we're playing a team like, let's say, Bayern Munich in the Champions League quarterfinals. Martinelli 9 times out of 10 is probably going to be starting unless he's on a
yeah.
really, really poor patch of form. So I would start Martinelli. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think as well with Trossard, he's really good, especially when he comes off the bench. Like, don't get me wrong, when he plays, he's great, but sometimes when he comes off the bench, he can be make that impact. So, I feel like for me, like I'd be open to both. It's quite a hard one because at the same time as well, if Trossard starts and he scores and Martinelli comes on, there's not an awful lot of pressure on him, I suppose. And suppose if Martinelli starts and he doesn't have a great game, I think fans might start to worry about him. But I think with Martinelli, I think we do have to give him time. It's like Havertz as well. People kind of judged him straight away. And as time went on, you saw he got better and he improved. So I think with Martinelli, I think it'd be nice to see him start, but I don't mind personally who starts. And I wanted to actually ask you a bit about the striker situation because for me, like the left back position is a great one that we've sorted out, but I also feel like I've wanted a striker for the longest time. And I know the transfer window is not over, but I just don't know if I feel like Arsenal are going to buy a striker. Like, how do you feel about what we're going to do? Do you think
Yeah,
Arsenal will buy one?
I'm kind of losing hope at this point,
Yeah.
honestly. Um, but I do think because didn't this might be a little bit of the American in me for not knowing this, but didn't they shorten the time of the transfer window? I know
Yeah,
it
I
used
don't
to,
actually know when it does shut, to be
because I
honest.
know there were like rumblings about that, but I know because it used to always be August. What's it called August 31st? Let me see. Oh no,
Yeah,
it closes August 30th now.
okay.
Um,
We've still got a bit of time, but
yeah, because I know there was one year where it shut kind of early.
yeah,
Um, what was I gonna say though? I
about a
think
striker, yeah.
I really want Gyökeres. Like I've loved him since he played for Coventry. Saw the
Mm,
great things he did at Sporting this year. I think he's a game changer, and I think if he came to Arsenal, that would be up there in terms of like Declan Rice coming last summer. Like it'd be a splash signing, and it'd be
yeah,
someone to really get heads turning. But on the same kind of on the same fruition, I would take an Osimhen or even
yeah,
um, a name that might not
mm,
even be on your radar, but Samu Omaredian. I think that's how you
mhm.
pronounce it. But after because Chelsea, the whole Chelsea deal just fell through. I'm looking at Fabrizio right now. Apparently, Chelsea tried to buy 50% of his player rights, and he backed out of the deal.
I mean,
Um,
you don't blame him.
yeah, so maybe if he's still in London and he wants to come to Arsenal, we could sign him. Um,
Yeah,
but also, I think our attack, we have a strong attack, and if Jesus goes back to pre World Cup vibes, then honestly, we
yeah,
don't need a striker. One of the things that I've always knocked Arteta on is that he doesn't like to play youth. And I think with our search of a striker right now, this would have been the perfect time to
yeah,
play someone like Cheeto Obi or even bring Fo Balogun into the team.
yeah. I think the youth, I feel like now, maybe a few years ago, Saka, it was like, you got in and you deserved that, but now it's a lot harder to
That was
kind of,
that was Unai Emery though.
yeah,
So I
that was,
think that brought
do
up
you
a
know,
name.
looking back, that was like incredible, and you've seen how far Saka's come, but now it's a lot harder for, these academy players to get the chance because, some of them just leave. I mean, Balogun, like you said, um, it's we got a lot of money for him, but I think as well, I do sometimes think if he had stayed, I wonder how well he would have done at Arsenal. But yeah, I think like you said, the youth definitely. I want to do more of that. I think we're probably more likely to see it in maybe like cup games when it's like in the early rounds. But I still think if we're winning in a Premier League game comfortably, we should play them, give them chances, and yeah, I really hope we can do that. I mean, I wanted to ask you about our game, our first game coming up. We got Wolves. I mean, do you feel like from what you've seen in pre-season? I mean, I know we've said we've not signed a striker, and it would be nice to buy one. But our attack does look good. But do you feel like from what you've seen, we are ready? Going into the Premier League season?
I think we are.
Yeah.
Um, I reckon we'll win on Saturday.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like I haven't looked at our first couple fixtures yet, but I know we have someone tough. I think game week 1 or 2.
Yeah.
We play Spurs game week 4 and then City game week 5. Yeah. So personally, I think we always do this thing. And last year and the year before were kind of the exceptions where we'll get out of the gate kind of slow. And then all of a sudden we will just like once we kind of get our footing, we get like we start I don't want to say it like in a corny way, but we start like finding our feet.
Yeah.
Um because I remember 2 years or 3 years ago now when we lost the first 3 games of the season. And honestly, people were acting like it was doomsday, but I don't think any 3 of those games were like we were favored in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe against Brentford. Brentford was probably the only loss that was inexcusable, but we're not beating City away, and we're not like at that time we're not beating Chelsea. So, um,
Yeah.
like, I don't like especially in that era of the club, like there was really no shot we were beating Chelsea. So I really
Yeah.
don't know like what people wanted us to do, but I reckon we'll beat Wolves. Villa away is going to be tough.
Yeah. That's a
Brighton at
game that will be
home.
hard.
Brighton's always challenging for us. and then Spurs away and City away are going to be. It's going to those first 5 weeks. I think that's going to define the pace of how the season is going to go. Because if you want to win the league,
Yeah.
you have to get results everywhere. Um, I honestly think we can beat Villa away. I know last year we didn't, but there was a little bit of luck there. And I watched that game. We were the better team. McGinn kind of had a lucky goal. So I reckon we can beat Villa match week 2. The only game I'm really worried about is City away.
Yeah,
I
that
think
one.
that's always a stressful fixture.
Yeah, I think Wolves. The first game. I feel okay about that. I think we could get a win, but I think, like you said, I think when we play Spurs, it's like I look at our team and I do think we're a lot better than them. But when it comes to those derbies, it's completely different. But yeah, the Man City one I think would be tough. Last season, you know what, it's quite interesting because I know we did win our first few games, but people sort of said we started off slow and then we kind of towards the end we got better. But I think this season, I think for us to win the league, I think we've got to really pick up points in those games that we didn't, like Fulham last season. The Villa game last season, I know if we would have won that, we would have won the league. But I think the games that we really should have won, teams against like West Ham, Fulham, I think a lot of those points that we dropped, we shouldn't have. How do you feel about the season winning the league with Man City? I know we've obviously strengthened with Calafiori. We've obviously got a great squad, great depth. What do you think we need to do if we need to win the league against Man City?
Uh, that's such an open-ended question. Um, I'd say the number one thing is keep our mentality.
Yeah.
When I was I did I was on AFTV a couple of years ago, I actually said this exact thing. I said we're winning games we're supposed to win. And I don't want to say Arsenal has a habit of just dropping easy points. I think in prior years,
Mm,
not these past couple of years, but I think if we beat teams we're favored to beat, I know that sounds like so cliche on paper, but if we can keep our mentality, take care of business week in, week out, that's the only way we can win because we don't need to be
yeah.
dropping draws at home against Fulham. That was embarrassing.
Yeah.
We don't need to be losing to Villa 3-0 at home. We don't need to be losing to West Ham at home. Like those were the 3
Yeah.
games that decided the title. And especially in a league with such small margins of error,
Yeah. You got to be perfect, especially when you're competing with Man City.
like you can't afford to drop petty points like that. So
Yeah.
those it's crazy because this whole season was decided basically off of 3 games.
Yeah, it is hard, looking back as well because I think we did so well last season. We got so close, and it was unfortunate. But I think last season, I think I felt more proud and disappointment. But I think we do have to win something next season. I've always said, if we don't win the league, I will be quite disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. But I think we do have to win something, whether that's like an FA Cup. I do love an FA Cup. I know we're in the Champions League as well, and I'm not saying we can win that. There's always a chance, but I think as long as I see us, improving, in the Champions League as well, that'll be really good. So I do really, really hope, we'll see us win the league. I hope we can. I just think we've got to bring a few more players in, definitely. So fingers crossed we'll do that. I just want to check if anyone has sent me any questions as well. Um, there's a question here actually from Ricky Cookie I wanted to ask. What did you think of Havertz's performance yesterday? I'll
I
let you answer
I,
first.
I love Havertz. I think he performed well. Just looking ahead to the season, I think like how Arteta plays him is going to be interesting. Um, because he thrived in that striker role last year, or not in the striker, like the false nine kind of role. Um, but obviously by trade, he's a midfielder. And I think that's why Arteta signed him because he can be so versatile wherever we really want to play him. And then also we saw for Germany he was playing left back, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think by him offering versatility, let's say we have injuries to our fullback depth, he can fill in there. And I honestly think he might be one of those players that plays all 38 Prem matches
yeah,
and cup games for us this year.
yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I really like Havertz. I think, I'm excited to see how he goes on throughout the season because last season I felt very impressed with him. I mean, at the start I was a little bit like I wanted a bit more from him, but I think he's a player that when he's got confidence, he plays very well. Whenever he struggles with that confidence, I think it affects him.
Can you hear me? I think we're having technical issues again.
Can you hear me again? I don't know why
I
I
can hear
keep.
you. Yeah, yeah. You're good.
Yeah, but yeah, with Havertz, I definitely think he's a player that when he struggles with confidence, that I think it affects him a lot. But I think going to season, I'm pretty excited to see what he can bring. I definitely expect him to start in the Wolves game as well. But like Ruki Cookie asked before, it'll be interesting to see who's going to be alongside. Will it be Martinelli, Trossard? I'm also excited to see Saka throughout the season because I feel like pre-season, I think he's been doing good. What have you made of Saka so far in pre-season?
I mean, he's barely played.
Yeah,
I think his Saka's biggest issue
mm,
is I just want to see him fit, not his
yeah,
best. I don't, and this is another thing I'll knock Arteta on, but I don't think Saka needs to play every game. Like
yeah.
in a way, Europa League game against. Didn't we play Bodo Glimt? I feel like last year. Who did we play? That was like a random.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was Bodo Glimt last Europa League. But I was like, why is he playing these games? Because I was like, it doesn't. Like it has no impact on how we're gonna do in the
Yeah,
group.
like give him a break. Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, he doesn't need to play in this. Like, save his energy for the games that matter to us. Um,
yeah. He does. He does. I think he gets overplayed too much. That's the problem.
so that was like, um, I don't know. That's my one biggest thing with Saka. I always want people make fun of him for limping, and I was like, if he plays 50 games a year, how are you gonna knock him, especially at the age of 23?
I know it's
Um,
amazing how much he does play. I mean, as well, for England as well, he's played a lot of football there, and he's coming back straight into a season. So, I'm excited to see what he can bring. I think he's will be an important player again. But I think with Arteta, I think as much as Saka might want to play every game, I think he's got to know when to give Saka rest because I think it will just drain him and exhaust him when he's being overplayed. But I wanted to actually ask you a bit about Raya because interestingly, last season we've seen him, I think he's grown a lot of confidence towards the end of the season. I think when he started, it is a big step up. It's very different when you're playing at Brentford to Arsenal. Arsenal expected to win a lot of stuff as well, and I'm really happy with how it's going with him. I mean, I really enjoyed watching him yesterday. I think he had a good game. I know he didn't have an awful lot to do as much, but I think with what he had to do, I feel like he did really good. Obviously, Ramsdale is our second choice now. Whatever happens with him in the future, but I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on Raya. Like throughout next season coming up, do you expect him to have a good season and keep up his good work? Like, what are your
yeah,
thoughts?
this is funny. A lot of my friends who know me as a David Raya hater. Guy was not. I was a huge Aaron Ramsdale fan.
Yeah, me too.
I just like the passion that he brought to the club. Um, Especially during our darkest times, Ramsdale kind of I think bringing him into the team is kind of the shift for that run in 2021 when we just started
Yeah,
racking off wins. Um, and I loved everything about him, just his platform for mental health and things like that. So
yeah,
last year when he got replaced, it was really tough on me. Just watching the games because I'm like Ramsdale should be here, like Ramsdale should be doing this, blah blah blah. Um, but Raya's been great. I don't want to take away from his
Yeah,
greatness. He's been great. Premier League Golden Glove winner. Like he's been exceptional. Um, I do think by I know he didn't play this much of the Euros, but by having that experience and being in those high tension environments, that still gives you some experience to better
yeah,
lead a team. And so I
mm,
think by him winning the Euros this summer, that was very important because it's going to add to his mentality.
yeah.
Um,
I
what were
agree.
you going to say?
No, I agree. It's quite hard because I'm like with you when Ramsdale, like, at the start of last season, I honestly thought Raya would be our second choice and he would play a bit more than Matt Turner did. But you know what? It took me a long time to accept that Ramsdale was going to be the second choice. It was all quite difficult, wasn't it? Because, like you said, Ramsdale had a passion. He was he had a great personality to fit in with the team, and it at the time it didn't make sense kind of why he was brought out the team because to be honest the season where we went to go for the league and we lost it to Man City, um I just feel like Ramsdale wasn't at fault for much, to be honest. Like, I know there were times where you could have not conceded some of the goals, but I think overall you couldn't really blame him for too much. But Ryan now, I feel like he's growing a lot of confidence. So yeah, I do like Raya a lot. I think they're just very different people, aren't they? I do love Ramsdale's passion, but I think they're just different people. But I think as long as Raya can keep what he's doing, I think he's doing really well, and I'm just excited to see kind of what he brings, for the season coming up. And I wanted just to ask you a bit about Saliba and Gabriel because honestly, like, sometimes I pinch myself thinking they're Arsenal because 'cause they're so amazing. Do you feel like now sort of I know they've not really won anything like a league like maybe Man City players have, but would you kind of say they are or they have the potential to be the best sort of centre backs in the Premier League in the world? Like, how do you feel about, like, ranking where they are in the world?
Oh, I most definitely think they are because
Yeah,
football's always been a team game.
yeah,
Um, like if you look at things like you can say Cristiano Ronaldo is the best player in the world, even though he didn't win La Liga. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like I don't think you can. I don't want to say winning isn't relative to success, but in
mhm,
football, you don't trophies don't define how good you are. So I do think they
yeah,
are, in my opinion, they're playing for one of the best teams in the world. They are the best center back pairing because I can't really think of a better
and your
center
vote,
back
yeah.
pairing that's like Militao, nah.
It's
Like
hard to
Martinez
pick.
and Delict, nah. So,
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think you'd have to, there's no other players that I think of, and I think they're
like,
better
I
than
think
Gabriel Saliba.
well, I was gonna say, I think Arsenal's weaknesses come in other places, and that's why we don't have the successes of the other teams.
Yeah, it's a hard one because like I do think attacker wise you're very good, and I think defensively we're very solid. But I think if we needed to improve, I think now's the time to sort of do that going into the season. But I do agree. I don't think you could really put anyone else defensively there and have the argument. I think as well. I think when they win silverware, if they get like a league title, I think that will give them more they'll earn more respect and more appreciation from like other rival fans. I think because we've gotten close and we've not quite done it. I think maybe people don't give them that credit, but I think they're both so amazing together. I know at one point people were saying Gabrielle was underrated, and I did think that, but I think they're both now starting to get that equal kind of support from everyone. So I'm really excited to go into season. But I just wanted to quickly ask you before I do round up the show a bit about Arteta because for me, as a fan, it's been quite bumpy with how I feel about him. It's been quite up and down. There's times where I've really loved him, and there's times where I'm like, "What are you doing?" But you know what? In the last few seasons, I feel like I understand them a lot more now, and I feel like we're in a very good place as a club. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on him because I know some fans are starting to feel like it's a been a while since we've won something, and I know next season's coming up, and we've really got to win something.
Honestly, I was kind of Arteta out before last year.
Mm,
Um, I don't know. I just think I one thing I like to emphasize is I really like bringing up youth.
mm,
I really like having homegrown players,
yeah,
and Arteta never plays youth. Um, I think he overplays players sometimes. I know he likes to have continuity, but I think he overplays players sometimes. But honestly, the past 2 years have been some of my best years watching football, so I cannot complain.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so I'm not really gonna complain about that.
yeah.
But what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I agree. I think the last few seasons have been a lot better really than the other seasons. So I do agree. I think he's earned a lot more support from fans because I know kind of during lockdown time before that it was sort of I know a lot of fans were sort of unsure about if he was the right guy, but I think we can pretty much see that he's sort of trying to get us to where we need to be.
I've had I I I don't want to say I've had a very nuanced opinion on Arteta, but if you ask any of my friends who support Arsenal, they can vouch for that. I've had a long journey to support Mikel Arteta, so I'll leave it
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah, I think do you know what I kind of like how different people's like opinions are because I know there's been a lot of fans that have sort of supported him from all the way through, and I'm like a fan that kind of like I love it. I'd love it to work with any manager, sort of a bit like Southgate when he was at England. Like I want it to work, even though I kind of didn't feel like it was going to work towards the end, but um with our debt, it's very tough because I think when we went through a lot of stages where we finished eighth twice, and it's sort of hard because he didn't have his own players yet, and some of them weren't really great players, looking back. But I think he's had a lot of time now to be where we are now, and I think it's amazing to see the progress. But I know with the progress, we do need to win silverware as well. So I'm pretty sure we can do it next season coming up. But I always think it's nice to hear other people's thoughts because I know a lot of people like myself, have always been a bit unsure. But I think a lot of us now can say, we've come a long way under Arteta. Um, but I just think all we need now is to win something, and I think the team do deserve to win it. So I'm really hoping we
Well,
can.
I hate using the word deserve in football, but I do think that we're
Mm,
strong enough this year to win
yeah,
some. I honestly think we can push for the league. I know the past
yeah.
couple years have been disappointment, but I think we can
Mm.
push for the league.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, last season I was always unsure if we would do it, but I did feel really proud. But I think the season before that, when we were like top of the league, 10 points above a lot of teams, that was a sort of season where I just felt so devastated because I honestly thought we would do it. Like, I know a lot of fans were confident we would do it, but do you know what? I always kind of take each game as it comes, and never kind of get carried away until we've actually got over the line. But it's so hard when we've not really been able to challenge for a while. Like this is amazing. So yeah, I'm with you. I think we can do it. Fingers crossed we can. But before we go, do you want to just tell people where they could give you a follow or find you on social media?
Yeah. My Instagram is Amir Bell, AmirBell, so like 3 L's at the end. Then my Twitter is underscore Amir Bell, like just my name. I on my Twitter I post like Arsenal stuff, just soccer takes or football takes, not soccer. Um, but I literally just kind of just post about football. So if you want to follow me on there, my Instagram is kind of a lot less football-y. It's more personal because that's like my school
Yes.
friends. Um, but if you want to follow my Twitter, go ahead.
Yeah, please do give him a follow to, find out Arsenal content that he likes to chat about as well. And it's been really great having you on today. I'm really sorry guys as well for the cutouts. It's probably my internet on my end, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's really nice to be able to chat about Arsenal. I mean, it's so nice knowing that the Premier League is going to start very soon. So thank you so much for coming on.
No worries. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, thank you so much. And to those that are still watching us, please don't forget to hit the like button on this video, subscribe, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.